Hello, David. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you, Salia. How are you?
I am so good because today I am finally speaking to the great David Rahman.
Oh,
Been waiting for this moment, and it's also because in the time that we had thought about getting on the podcast together, I've been looking at what you've been up to, what you've been doing, and off and on, just been looking at what you've been creating as the human person that you are, and then what you're doing for others, and how you've uplifted yourself. So we'll get straight into it. I will get into the part about your book that's just come out, Let
mm,
It Go. And in this book, what you basically are saying is that you can fundamentally change your life. And in the book, you say, I believe it is the key to helping people release themselves from the negative thinking which is currently keeping them unhappy. And I found that profound. So, can you just tell us a bit about that?
yeah, sure. I think we all, Salia, we all have a way of thinking.
Mhm.
And some people, they're optimists, some people, they're positive, some people, they're naturally um, negative thinkers, and they'll admit that.
Mm,
So I
mm,
think for me, how did we develop this? And I believe it comes from the past, our experiences, who was in
mm,
our life,
mm,
how people influenced us.
mm,
And I believe if we can change the way we think, there's so much that we mentally and emotionally carry, we can start to let go of.
mm, mm. It's interesting. That is so interesting. In the book, there's a quote that you mention, and that quote is by Johann Wolfgang one. How do you pronounce that person's name? And the quote is it says, "Things which matter most must never be at the mercy of things which matter least."
Mm,
That
mm,
was so deep.
mm.
How did you come up with this quote to be appropriate for that part of the book?
I've always loved that quote. And to paraphrase it, don't let the things that matter most be at the mercy of the things that matter least. And sometimes we just do that. We're looking for maybe validation, or we're people pleasing,
Hmm.
so therefore we're giving our time and energy to things which perhaps don't serve us and
Hmm.
eventually make us feel a bit resentful.
Hmm.
We've wasted our time. So
Hmm.
it's it's all about valuing yourself and your
Hmm.
time. That statement.
Hmm. It's beautiful. And I like the way I was also looking. It's a very deep quote. It can be put in many ways. But at the moment when I was reading it, I think it's to do with how you're thinking in that moment when you read something. And as a reader, what came to me is that where we put our focus is exactly where we grow. So if we put our focus in something that's not working out for us and we just keep going on and on about it, even though there is no way out in that situation, that's where you will go. So your focus determines where you go, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Mm,
Um, our focus then depends on how we look at life, and if we look at life as a struggle,
yeah.
we'll often find things to struggle about.
Mm, mm,
And
yeah.
it's I look at focus like a magnifying glass. Wherever you put the magnifying glass, you'll see more of.
Yeah.
And it's it then boils down to choice. Where do you want to put your magnifying glass?
Mm, mm. So we could go a bit more deeper into the book, but where I want to go right now is a bit about you as David, as the boy you were, as how you grew up and your perception. Because I'm feeling this from you, and I feel you used to wonder and ponder and think about things a lot, like simple things such as why didn't that bird come back to that window again? That kind of a deep
Mm.
thinker. Were you always like that, looking at life from this lens?
Yes, 100%.
Hmm.
Um, I thought I was a bit crazy actually. I thought there was something wrong with me because I was too deep at times, thinking about
Hmm.
why are some people confident and why are some people not confident, and why do they seem to be happy? Why can't I be as happy as that? And why do I feel left out? So I always used to think about
Hmm.
things like thinking. Why do people think the way they do? So I was always curious about the mind,
Hmm.
and also curious about where I fitted in the world. I
Hmm.
was only a youngster, teenager when I started thinking these things, and I
Hmm.
was used to observe people. I love observing people. In fact, I love observing people interact. And I remember at the age of 18, I was with my friend. We were in this, like a nightclub at the time, and we
Hmm.
were just looking at people and looking at their microfacial movements, we called it now, and body language. But I was very interested in that, just to see how people connected. So it was very,
Hmm.
very, yeah, as a child, I was very curious and
Hmm.
still am.
Hmm. Hmm. Do you think you, where you are today, David, do you think that that child, the happy child, is has come back and is there within you, even though you've grown up, and but like the work that you put within you to become the person you are today, you brought that child back into that happy place that he was in?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, as
Hmm.
a teenager, I wasn't, I was happy and not so happy at times, you know?
Hmm.
I didn't actually have confidence looking
Hmm.
back, and I
Hmm.
didn't um, think I was worthy. I had a lot of self-esteem issues.
Uh-huh.
So but there is this, one of my friends said recently, she's a psychologist. She said, David, there's knowing you how I know you. She said, you've got two sides of you. You've got a
Hmm.
very childlike form of you, which is very,
Hmm.
very adventurous, likes to see the world, likes
Hmm.
to enjoy himself. And then you've got a very deep and spiritual side of you, the one
Hmm.
that goes deeper. So
Hmm.
I'm I'm pleased. I'm pleased I've got those two sides, you know.
Yes,
I,
yes.
I embrace them.
Yes, and you said in the book that where I'm today, I'm happy and grateful. And I like how you put it together, because you could have said anything, that I am abundant, I am enough, I'm great. But the simplest way you could say it is that you were
Yes.
happy and
Yeah.
grateful, which
Yes.
also brings us down to, like, there was a time like you were not able to let it go. There was a time when you were ungrateful or not able to see the abundance around you, not open to the idea of how everything's working out for you, right? So you were in the opposite emotions of what you are experiencing now. Therefore, you're appreciating what you have. So you went through that struggle, didn't you?
Yes, definitely. And I guess when you are growing up, and in my 20s, I had dark thoughts. Yeah.
Mm,
And I questioned, what's the point of me? So you get to
mm,
the point where you think you question yourself,
mm,
and you don't understand, because you don't understand that you've
mm,
got enough. You know, you
mm,
don't realize that we've got enough.
mm,
I didn't realize that I was so well liked. I didn't think I was.
mm,
So we are in our own little bubble without any awareness of who we are. So yeah, and
mm,
I guess it wasn't a lack of gratitude. I just didn't know how to express it.
mm,
Even though I love my parents and my family,
mm,
um, I didn't realize. I mean, one of the, I think, going back, if I could share this little story,
mm,
I did, as a teenager, I ran away a few times. I ran away about 3 or 4 times as a teenager, because I was rebelling, because I felt trapped. And one day I ran away on the wrong night. It snowed. I was
uh,
outside in the snow,
oh.
lying under this conifer, this small tree. And I, from that night on, because I was so cold trying to sleep in the snow under this tree, I, I thought, for the rest of my life, if I ever get it back into my own bed again and sleep, I will never take my bed for granted again. A bed, you know,
Mm,
I never have. You know, I'm grateful every day to get
yeah.
into a bed and wake up in a bed. So
Mm,
yeah, it,
yes.
little moments like that, Solia, just change who you are.
That's it. That's it. I feel, David, I feel that one doesn't have to sort of like fall through a building or have to, come under a train and come out alive. Like those little life and death kind of moments where people have accidents, to go through something like which changes your perspective in a way that
Mm.
changes your perspective on life. I mean, not that I am saying that people who go through that are people who don't go through anything, but I'm saying is there the emotions that we go through when we go through these places where we actually understand, oh, whose body am I in, who am I, like who am I really, right?
Mm.
Those are emotions a person can feel within their body just because what they're going through, because they're making themselves feel sick with the anguish and the pain that they're giving themselves. That
Mm.
can be the similar feeling that a person who's gone through an accident and come out alive. So emotions can be similar in two people, whether they had an accident or
Mm.
they gave themselves a self accident by with
Mm.
not thinking that they are alive or they are broken.
Yes,
Does
100%.
that make sense?
It definitely makes sense. Yeah, great statement. And yeah, I mean, somebody will can go through physical trauma like an accident or near accident, and somebody can go through emotional trauma. The
Mm,
pain is still the same,
mm,
it's still the same. I remember in 1999, I had a I had a sports car in those days,
mm,
and I was loading up this. It only had two seats, so I was putting my suit behind my seat, and within 20, 30 seconds, this lorry literally grazed me and took away the door of my car. So it didn't touch me, but I could feel this go past me. I heard this huge bang, and it took away the door of my car. And I looked, my car door was hanging off, and this lorry, you see, was stopped further down the street. He obviously hadn't been paying attention to the road, so I could have been killed. At the very least, I could have been in a wheelchair, but I wasn't. And at that time, I thought, wow, lucky escape. But I look back now, I'm thinking, wow, I can walk. So that was for me, yeah, a near-death experience.
mm,
That's
mm.
that, that's something which did impact on me. But I
Yeah.
think so much more has gone inside my head anyway from other times, like you say,
Mm,
where have impacted me at a deeper level,
mm,
at a deeper level. So
mm,
I've looking back in my life, I've been traumatized many times, but not through
mm,
physical
mm,
action, but by
mm,
emotional
mm.
times. Yeah.
Yeah. And I find it hard, David. I find it hard. I mean, this story you just told me is getting me to think about this other thought that just come up by hearing the story of you being that car door and like near life death kind of experience, which was your own experience. Like nobody was there filming you or anything, but that's your,
Mm.
that's embedded within you, right? In this, what happens is that oftentimes when somebody questions you, especially people who don't know you, and they ask you, like, what have you been through to become the motivational coach you are today? Like, you can't literally go through every point that made you who you are, but there's some things you are just aware of today because you went through processes, isn't it?
Mm. Yeah, 100%. And when I work with clients, I've often experienced what they've experienced, and I can feel
Wow.
it.
Wow.
I've always known that I'm an empath, or
Mm,
I'm empathic. I can feel emotions and feel people. So immediately, I can. I always think one of my strengths. If people ask me, "What are your strengths?" Is I can help people be more at ease with themselves as a coach.
mm,
So I don't know the answers for them, but I can help them find the answers, and I can also
mm,
give them tools. So yeah,
mm.
it's a way of connecting. I think that the more you can connect with yourself, the
Yes.
more comfortable you're in
Yes.
your own skin, the more you can help
Yes.
others and connect with themselves. Yeah.
Yes, and I get this from you that you are able to put yourself, let's say, in the shoes of other people, like putting yourself in somebody's shoes. You know how when we're
Mm.
growing up, our parents go like, you don't know how it feels to be a poor person on the street with no shoes on. Just imagine how it would be like that. How would it feel to be them? So
Yeah.
you can feel while sitting next to them, you can feel how it is to be them. And that's amazing how you came up with this book called Let It Go. And I want to know how did you come about with this idea that I'll from coaching and doing all these seminars and motivating people, changing lives, you said, today I will write a book. How did that come about?
Yeah, sure, great question. Um, I used to work a lot one-to-one with people, and then I started thinking I want to work with groups of people. How do I help people change, but more of them
Hmm.
in the same room? So I started offering workshops for small groups and just using the same tools as I would do in a private session, but
Hmm.
deliver it more on a content approach.
Hmm.
And it worked. People were changing. And
Hmm.
on my 6 to 8 week program, people were changing. And I then thought, well, it would be nice to change even more people if possible. How
Hmm.
do I get people around the world and start to help people change
Hmm.
without even having to have without meeting them? And so the book is like a conversation. It's like me having a conversation with you
Yeah.
and showing you how the mind works, how perhaps you've learned to think the way you do, to show that you can change the way you think. It's not irreversible and it's not fixed. And if you're open to working on yourself and wanted to change, then you can do it. So the book then was distilled down from the tools I learned and information over a period of about 5 years, 5 or 6 years. It
Wow.
wasn't a quick situation,
Hmm.
and it's yeah, it came from that. So it started in 2015, and then it ended in 2020. The journey, Let It Go, was a result of having worked with people and looking into their eyes and then seeing them transform. They've often said, I had to let go of this, or I had to, there's always this common thread, Sally, was they let go of something. And I thought, wow, and that was the common thread, and therefore the title of the book.
Beautiful. Love it. It's also bringing you back to 2015. That's when my daughter was very young, and this movie came out called Frozen, and it had a theme song. I don't think anybody else will bring it up with you, so I said I'll be the mum who brings it up.
Yeah.
Let it go, let it go. Do you get people often bringing that song up, or they're just like too shy or polite?
They do bring it up occasionally. Yes, people say it, and I think it's great, isn't it? It's a
Yeah,
song that children
yeah.
can relate to, and I think
Mothers can relate
mothers,
too.
yeah, yeah, and it's an obvious statement, isn't it? And if the world could let go
Yeah.
of stuff, it could
Hmm.
be an easier place for a lot of people.
Definitely, definitely. And I've written it down because it was a thought that came to me when I was looking at your title. And so um, I wrote it. The title is wonderful because it actually does not imply to anyone that, okay, so you know how we say to people, this is the thought behind it. You know how we say to people when they're going through something, and most people do this. So if a person is going through something, go like, be grateful, be positive,
Mm,
um, just forget about it. What
mm,
these statements do, they imply that I know, I've been there, so you can just go through it and just don't stiffen up and face life. Though
mm,
when somebody's going through trauma, and this, when they're going through, but I'm saying it for the viewers and everybody listening to us today, when you're going through all this pain and agony and you feel like you're all alone in this space where there's no help, you just need somebody to just kindly hold your hand and go like, let it go.
mm,
So, and with this implies that I don't know what you're going through. I'm not saying be grateful or forget it. Or, it's not, it's just saying whatever it is,
mm,
just first step is let
mm,
it go. And then
mm,
you're not saying that I'm judging you or I'm telling you what you've gone through is something I've gone through. And you're not trying to be somebody like, how I think in most parenting systems or like places where people tell you that how to be, they're like, because we have been through this, so we tell you, give you, dispense this is advice to you. So you don't come from that space of advice, but you're starting with the first step. Is like when you're in that thought pattern where you're
mm,
you're stuck, and all your thoughts are telling is like just daggers. They're daggers, and they're telling you, you are not good, you are not enough. You just need somebody to change your thought, like break it and say, let it go. So I love that beautiful message. This is where I was like, wow. Like I didn't know this title would affect me this way when I thought about it. But it, it started with the song, the fun
Mm.
aspect, and then it went straight into this deep, deep place.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's true. I mean, you know, if somebody is in pain or trauma or anything in their life, you can't just tell them. You can't just tell them because they don't want to be told. I mean, the first thing they want to be really is to be understood, and then they want support and patience
Mhm.
because we can only support and be patient around someone who's going through pain, no matter how small the pain or big the pain is. You can't just judge someone and say, I know better than you, do this, because that's just not helpful at all. And let it go is just a notion, an option for that person to say, would you consider this? Letting go. Would you consider it?
Mm.
So it's a
Mm.
a gentle
Mm.
approach.
It feels like that, and that's why I had to dramatically sort of express it by, just show you, like, let it go, holding somebody's hand, because that's words are like, they are like spells. And the way the word spell is used is to say that it can actually affect somebody's mind for them to take an action to, for that to go to another human. And it's like it's a conscious thing. It's a human collective thing. When you say let it go to somebody here, it's going to another person, and this is how it works. So that's how it was settling with me, because I myself, since I'm learning to become a coach, and I do face people, and I mean, I've had a whole life where I have experiences in this whole time. If I look at moments where I was personally down, if somebody said let it go, and I don't care who they were, I would be like, thank you, I needed to hear those words, because I think what the problem is, like, people tend to overjudge themselves a lot, and in that tend to hold on to things like guilt and shame, and I'm not worthy. And in that, somebody has to break that chain. And I love that graphic explanation. It's straight away when I'm going through the pages of your book, there's a rope, and this
Yeah,
person is holding on to it really tight, and
yeah,
then he's like, let's go, but the rope still has the imprint of his hands, of his fingers, because he's been holding on for so tightly for so long. And then when he goes to the third, if there are three images, the third image is saying he's let go, and the rope's gone away from him, and the hand is free. So this is it. This is our human instinct to hold on to negativity and thinking it's happening, right?
yeah, absolutely. And later on in the book, there's a model which I do hope you, when you do read it, it's called the
Okay.
Fit Mind model,
Hmm.
FIT.
Mhm.
Um, F is the past, I is in the now, and T is the future.
Okay.
And what's in between each of the two sections is the word let it go. So F stands for, in the past, forgiveness, forgiving something, someone, including yourself.
Hmm.
When you do that, you let go. You let go. You're back in the I, which is in the now. Or
Hmm.
T is the future, where when we don't trust, when we don't trust that things are going to go well, or we over question or overthink the future, we get anxious. We start building anxiety because we say things like, um, will he propose to me, or will I get that job, or will I pass the exams? These are all future based, and
Hmm.
we're questioning the word trust. So when we can trust the future, I always say trust the universe, trust God, trust whatever, just trust. It makes you feel immediately calmer just to trust. If you look in the past, if you just forgive yourself for all the bad things you've said to yourself, or forgive a person, or forgive the events. Forgiveness doesn't mean condoning what went on was right. It just
Hmm.
says, I'm now going to unlock. free myself. I'm
Mm,
going to say goodbye. So that's
mm,
the ultimate letting go. So
mm,
that for me is, it's so powerful when we embrace the past, learn from it, but let it go.
mm, mm.
We can't hold on to it because it's like holding on to a moving car which is going backwards in time. It's going to hurt us.
Wow.
It's going to hurt us.
Mm,
And
mm,
then if you think about the future,
mm,
if you overthink about the future, you're never present with that person. You're never present with
mm,
yourself. You're just thinking too far ahead when it hasn't even happened, but just trust. So in this time in history, we've got a pandemic, we've got
yes.
a,
Mm,
I'm just trusting, I'm trusting the universe. And I say to myself every day, all day, every day, trust the
mm.
universe, trust the universe. And, you
Trust it.
know,
You have
trust.
to.
You
You
have to.
have to. I like how you've actually said this in some place too. Like we are all works. Everyone is a work in progress.
Mm,
And you said that I believe everyone is a work in progress. The moment you stop working on yourself is the
mm,
moment I believe your life plateaus. From that moment, there is a chance that you may slip backwards. And that's where I'm at. And I really believe that no matter how much we learn, is the day we get up and we're like, oh, I don't want to do this anymore, that's basically giving up on ourselves. So
mm.
even if it's a little action you take every day, you need to keep building yourself, isn't it? And nobody's perfect. That's what you're trying to say, that I am not perfect. And I love that. That's so humble and that's so important to say it to everyone.
Yes, no one's perfect, least of all me. And what I think is that what I was trying to, the message is that just do something every day.
Hmm.
Just to do something and understand you're like an unfinished masterpiece. You're just going to be working on yourself all your life because we're here
Hmm.
to experience life on this planet. And it's a
Hmm.
great adventure. I always look at it as an adventure. We can always find a great restaurant or find a lovely country to visit and new people to talk to. And we can always learn from others and to
Yeah.
always look at, when I meet people, I want to learn from them. I want to learn more from them
Hmm.
because it's going to
Hmm.
make me better, you know? Um,
Yes.
and I think that if the moment we start thinking that we're complete is a downward, we're going downhill from that point,
Hmm.
That work and
Hmm.
keep, and it's not work, it's joy. Feed your soul, feed your
Yeah.
mind, you know?
Yes. Yes, that is. And it's just perspective, isn't it? Is
Yeah.
switching your perspective to the idea, as you said, the universe is always working out for me, like the universe has got my back. And it's just not to say that I'm not putting in the work, that people get confused. They think like trusting the universe means that, okay, I'm just gonna sit here and just gonna have a cup of tea and things are gonna just work out. No, it's
Yes.
because of the work you put in yourself every day, where you can have that cup of tea and imagine and have visualizations of this grand thing that is happening currently. Like you can imagine your future happening now. So instead of you said this yourself, fascinating about the future or dreading the future, imagine that you have what you want in the future right now, right
Mm.
here, and it works because it puts you in the rhythm and the energy and the frequency of having, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. And when it's all about energy. I mean,
Mm,
my degrees, university degrees were first one was biochemistry, which is the biochemistry of the body, and the next one was optometry. And so I'm very much science driven, and
mm,
we are energy. If you ask a human being, what are we? They'll say, well, bones, hair, skin, brain. And if you look deeper, then it's chemicals and cells. If you look even deeper with the most powerful microscopes, science says that we're just energy.
mm,
Um, well, I shouldn't say just energy. We are energy. Therefore, if you meet someone you really connect with, you feel their energy. It's amazing.
mm,
It's absolutely amazing. And if you meet someone who is the opposite, they drain your energy. So we are energetic beings. And yeah, you're
mm,
right. When we think about things that
mm,
we want,
mm,
and if you are of that energy, because once upon a time I wasn't this energy. I
mm,
was too shy. I was
mm,
maybe negative and maybe despairing. So it was a different energy. You would have had a conversation with me,
Hmm.
it would have been a mixed energy. But now I would say that I'm a good energy, the best version, which is
Yes.
something that you just want to work on every day and be
Yeah.
the next version of yourself. Just like you buy your favorite car, but in a couple of years' time, they do a new version of that, which is better. They say safer, better. So why not look at yourself as a work in progress? And you've got you've got the remote control. You can operate your life, and that's where I would like people to think about that.
That is such an interesting point, David, because more and more people need to understand that we need to show up for ourselves, and we just need to believe that nobody's better than anybody else, nobody's worse than anybody else. This whole dichotomy of like us versus you, and all these wars, and like I will go into that whole peace, love, and that 70s thing, because I do believe in that. Because the more I become a better version of me, like what I think, work in progress, I get like, why do we have this? Like, I'm older than you, you're younger than me, I know better. This whole, as you said, beliefs and ideas that we grow up with. And isn't it wonderful to be in a place where you grow up with certain beliefs and ideas, and people like ancestrally, you see people doing things the same way, and you decide, no, I'm not going to think like that. I respect the good things, but the things that never worked and they've been recycled for years
Mm-hmm.
and years. I think I can change that. And then you
Yeah.
do the work. So I like this about you.
Yes. Thank you. Yeah. I mean, we come through generations, in our family, and they thought a certain way. We don't know how they thought, but what we do is we learn from our parents, but our parents have learned from their parents, and so it trickles down to the generations. And slowly, only when we identify the thinking errors they're making, when my own mum says, "What will the neighbours think?" I've got to think of prestige in the family. What will they think? And we see other people have the same sort of parents, and they understand that we call it culture, isn't it? Culture, which is thinking and feeling, but it's come down through generations.
Yeah.
It's only when you start to think deeply about it
Mm.
and you're open to change. If I wasn't open to change, I wouldn't have changed. And there are
Yes.
people out there who are not open to change, and I respect that. I
Yes.
respect that. If they're not open to change, that's fine.
Mm.
Um,
Mm.
but I guess we're looking for people to work with people who want to change,
Yes.
who believe they want to be, instead of a victim, they want to be a victor.
Mm.
They want to
Mm.
be take control of their life.
And this is what I felt, that this book is for those who have reached that point where they're feeling the calling. They're like, I want help. Because you put it in the book too, and I think it's here where you say that um, I knew I had to go to war with my mind if I was to come out of this. Yet sadly, I did not know how. And I
Mm,
found that so deep, because I have been in those situations where I thought I am the only one, and I don't know who to talk to, who to tell this to, and would anybody even get it, or even would somebody be the well where I can say it, and it goes away. So it just gets out of my system. So
mm.
it's so deep.
Yes, yeah,
How?
and
You
do you
know?
know it's funny because I hear people telling me, they've watched videos or they've come on my courses, and there could be an audience there sitting there, 50 people, and then somebody will come up to me at the end and say, "I thought I was the only one who experienced this," and
Hmm.
because I would get them to do exercises and pair up, and they say, "I can't believe all these years I thought I was the only one who felt like this," and that for me, and maybe for you, when we realize that we're not the only one, uh, it's it's freeing. We feel lighter immediately.
Hmm.
We
Hmm.
feel
Hmm.
we feel we've got a chance to
Yes.
change when we realize that we're not the only one.
And you can let it go. You can wake up in the morning and say, I am choosing to be this. Then you can wake up the next morning and say, I'm choosing to be this. Like tomorrow I talk to you, David, you could say, I'm a better version of myself today. So the person you spoke to yesterday has kind of evolved overnight. You know,
Yeah.
that is your choice. You can do that. To tell people that you
Mm.
can change, grow this very second is so important for people like you to do. The work that you do is amazing that way.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, that reminds me of Sonia Lyubomirsky. She's a chief psychologist in California, in
Mm,
UCLA, and she did a study on the what makes people happy. And I remember reading this a few years ago, and she influenced me. And she found out that 50% of our happiness is genetic. It's in the genes, it's coded. And it's so fascinating, this new science of epigenetics, which I'm looking into for my next book, because that's what I want to write about. Uh,
mm,
then she found out that 10% of our happiness, which is really interesting, this next bit, 10% is the toys in our life, which is the car, the money, the job, the prestige, the holidays, the clothes, 10%.
mm,
That's only 10%. That's why people who win the lottery often they become bankrupt within 5 years because they were never happy in the first place. So then she posed the question, what's the other 40%? What's
mm,
that 40%? That's the bit that we can actually um, utilize.
mm,
And
mm,
her answer that she found out, because she studied several
mm,
thousand people, including twins, the answer was choice. What we
mm,
choose to do, the activities, the interactivity we do daily influences our happiness. Choice. So
mm.
50% genetics, 10% the toys, 40% the choice of actions we take every day.
Wow.
And if you make, if you don't do anything, that's a choice.
Mm,
If
mm,
you
mm,
decide that you can't change, that's a choice.
mm,
But it's not permanent. You've got the right. You've got the right to choose. Make a different choice.
mm,
You
mm,
might see a movie and
mm,
think, "Wow, that's what I want to do in life." You've made a choice,
mm,
and you've started going about doing it. Lots of people
mm,
out there might have taken 10 years after
mm,
initially thinking they wanted to start their business,
mm,
but they were too afraid to leave the job. So
mm,
they took 10 years to make that decision.
mm,
Or I remember having a message on Facebook a couple of years ago, and the lady said, I've been on your day event, David. It really inspired me, but also it shook up my mindset. And I thought, where's she going with this? She
mm,
said, within 6 months after your workshop, I left my job because I was being bullied and I'd been there for so long. I left it, I made a decision and I got a new job. I'm so happy. And she said, I also left my marriage. She said, I realized I was unhappy for about 5 years and I left it. She said, I'm
mm,
so happy. She said, I've got a new
mm,
partner. I'm so happy because I
mm,
made that choice.
mm,
Something I would have said that day
mm,
influenced the way she was thinking, but she made
mm,
the decision that she decided I'm worthy.
mm,
I'm worthy of happiness. I
mm.
I am worthy of happiness. So it was lovely to see that message.
Mm. And the universe just conspires when the human themselves stands up for himself or for
Yeah.
herself and says, I intend to be this person now. I realize my power and I embrace it. And then
Mm.
everything does work out. And that's the part people don't talk about. And they always talk about the regretfulness, the resentment, or the sadness you'll feel when you leave all these stable sort of things in your life. And so they don't go on the other side of fear. So I love how you work with fear. And there's a lot about that in the book, too.
Yes, fear is the invisible enemy. It's we feel it,
Mm,
but when we take action,
mm,
we can pass through it. There
mm.
is a there's a chapter on the book in the book on fear with a very interesting story. I'm not going to tell it because
You're so
people,
tempted.
yeah, they can read it. They can read it. It's the story of the dog, and I want people to read it and see how does it resonate with them. It
Mm,
might change their attitude towards fear. So I put a whole chapter on that. Yeah, because it's something it's there, but if we trust. I was working with a client yesterday morning with this specific problem, and it was affecting her body, and nobody knew what was going on. And I've worked with her before, and I said we're looking at trust here, and she understood. She understood. It wasn't the virus or the world, but
No.
it was something about herself. But the minute we trust, fear can actually dissolve away. It suddenly can dissolve away, and you might wake up the next day scared. Okay, trust.
Love that. Love that. Because I actually did write down that I was going to ask you about how disease is connected to our ability to think positively or negatively. Because I've always been interested in the mind. So this is just going to another place now. And you've sort of answered that question, but I would get to the part that I would like you to put forward as well. What do you think of this? Like, I have always been interested in the mind, but like there were certain moments in my life where I think when you go through places where you think you're going mental, basically you feel like it's like you are not in control of certain things that your brain is able to project to you, or like you were able to hallucinate or visualize things which you're not in control of. So in those kind of situations, one would think, what is wrong with me in terms of my brain, right? So those kind of things got me to like, I did like start with writing poetry and things like that, because I couldn't explain how I feel. Writing for me was a struggle, but if it was poetry, I would be like saying it out, or singing was more easier for me, like writing songs. I think what happens to people is, like, I'm just going down to the point, it's when they go through anywhere, when their mental state is questioned, where they're not in control of it, like people who go through depression, or people go through anywhere where it's told like your brain is not working fine and you are not in control of it. That's where when people either let go, or they're like, I want to know more about my brain. I'm not going to let that doctor tell me that what my brain looks like. I'm going to work at my brain. And I think that's where I got so interested in the brain. I started like getting into Dr. Joe Dispenza lately. And in the beginning, it was all about quantum physics. It was all about getting into like how the subconscious mind works and how the conscious mind works. And that's why when I see a mind coach and I'm speaking to you today, it's like everything has come together. So really grateful this moment.
Oh yes, I'm grateful. I'm grateful for being on the show. It's great. Great questions.
Love it. Love it. And I know your book will do great. Is it on Amazon?
It's everywhere. Yeah, it's on Amazon, so people can order it. It's on every reputable book site now. So really happy it's out there just to help people. Yeah.
I feel we need to have another podcast soon when you have come to another state of evolving, and me too. And we will talk about a few other topics, because I feel like there is so much that can be talked about, but like it can go so deep if
Yes.
if we let it go.
Yes, 100%. I'm the same again. I'd love to have a conversation with you again, because I think you can take the conversation anywhere, because the brain. I mean, actually, in the book, there's a chapter you might love as well. It's about neuroplasticity, how the brain will
I
change.
love this. I've written it down that I will ask you about this. You're saying exactly what I've written. Sure. It's like, did I manifest this conversation? I have no idea. It's crazy. That whole law of attraction thing. I did, right? I said I will ask you about how. Oh, yeah. There's a term that's been coined around neuroplasticity, where you can reprogram your mind into positive thoughts and become your best version. What do you think about that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, in the book, it's I talk about the brain because when I was training to be an optometrist, we had to learn about the brain. So now I can look back at that and marry it up with psychology now. And yeah, our brain, we've got 100 billion cells, and they want to change. We spend the first, 18, 20 years of our life learning how to walk, talk, read, write. And then after that, we perhaps do very little with our brain. And science has proven we can, you can teach an 80-year-old how to play the piano. It's not that old saying, well, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. That's absolute BS. You can, anyone can change. And the exciting thing is, I've worked with so many seniors who have spent decades, Salia, really hating themselves and feeling unworthy and feeling their life was a waste, and they've changed. We've had
Mm,
coaching sessions and they've
mm,
changed and they felt more happy and grateful in their life than they have been for the first 60 or 70 years. And it's, no, I was going to say it's crazy. It's not crazy. It's just that people can understand. We've been taught so many things growing up,
mm.
and we've learned so many things which were, they didn't serve us and they were wrong,
Yeah.
completely wrong. And science is now disproving it, that
Mm,
you can learn a new language at any age. You can
mm,
learn how to play the piano.
mm,
You can, there's famous stories of nuns, 50 to 60-year-old nuns who would never run in their life, completing triathlons, Ironmans, we
mm,
can do it. Um,
mm,
our mind and our brain is very, very trainable, but it's you having
mm,
to decide, I want to do it, and
mm,
making that decision. So again,
mm.
it's back to that word decision and choice.
And the fact that you said, if I was not open to change, or if people are not open to change, then they wouldn't have hold this perspective, which was always like, nah, there's more to this, there's more to this, nah, there's more to this.
Yeah.
People become the solidified versions of themselves around their 30s, on their 40s, because they think they've been holding on to this for so long. But I think with people like me and you, I think, and there are many of us, and then there are many people who can think like this. It's not just us. I think we kind of, in a way, always thought there was something else going on, and that we are just in between all of this, and we are getting somewhere. And the belief we had within ourselves, even on the most crappiest of days, was
Mm,
there. It was there. That little fire was there. That little light was there. And the
mm,
experiences, I think, only show you the contrast of what you want to be. So if you
mm,
faced a lot of pain, you're like, nah, I'm not going to experience that pain again. Sorry, I might face it to grow, yes,
mm,
but I'm not going to do a limit where I'm going to think like I'm going to take my life. Things like that. This is where we need to tell people that it doesn't have to go to a place where you have to take your life. It can go to a place where you go
mm.
low, but then you go up. You know,
Yes.
you don't have to
Yeah.
go down.
Mm,
Take that pain, feel it, but it
mm.
doesn't mean that you have to, you know.
Yes. Yeah. Acknowledge the pain, acknowledge where it's
Hmm,
coming from. You're hurting.
hmm,
Something has not resonated with you in your life. Something's happened.
yeah,
Um, and use and learn from that pain
yeah,
to obviously to become a better person.
yeah,
Share the pain with a trusted person,
yeah.
because often people, come to a place where they feel so alone and so lost. And
Yeah.
I'm a huge believer in that. If you can get to the point where you can share it,
Mm,
if it's not with a professional like you and I, to share it with someone they trust, someone
mm,
you feel
mm,
who's not going to judge you, because
mm,
there's nothing worse than talking to someone who's going to judge you and
mm,
tell you what to do.
mm,
When you then share it, then think about, right, what can I do differently from now on? What can I do? Repeat, repeat, repeat daily. You know. So
Mantra. Yeah,
yes, mantras and
yeah,
exercise and
yeah.
action. Take action, as you said
Mm.
about, if we want stuff in life, like the law of attraction, we want to bring stuff into our life. You still got to take action. As you say, you can't sit back in your seat and then just think, right, okay,
Yes.
it's going to happen, and I'm not even going to have to think about it. We have to take action every day, and that could be just 1%. If you take
Mm,
1% of action every day, in 100 days, that's
mm,
100%
mm.
change you want. So it's just moving forward a little bit at a time.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so now we get to the part of our conversation where I will give you a card from my deck, which is called the Power Thought cards. So
Okay.
I'm gonna do a bit of a, you know, out there kind of thing. She was like, what is this? This is not connected to science, but it is.
Yes, I love it.
It's like,
Yeah.
there she goes with her spirituality. And
Quality.
so this what it does is that because of the time that you've spent over here, the energy that you've shared with us today, the words, the profound stories from the heart that you've delivered today for us to hear and experience, that what you are here to say, this is a gratitude, just a token for the
Mm,
fact that you're here present. And what I do is I just intuitively pull out a card. It's a double-sided card and it's a power thought card. So it's basically just like an affirmation or telling you how your day is or how you should think, or like it's up to you how it resonates with you. If it
mm,
doesn't, you know how to work with energy, you know
mm,
scientifically how to work with energy. So it wouldn't be like this, it would be something like tung, 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 like processes of dispensing this energy. So
yeah,
I'll just pull out a card and
mm.
see what comes out for you. So
Thank you.
so I'll do this little thing where I say, Dear Universe, help me pull out a card for David Rahman. And then universe is saying, pronounce it as Rahman, because that's how I used to pronounce it. But
Yeah.
he's British. Yeah. So don't want to offend him. Okay, let's pull out a card. And oh, so it says, I don't think if you can see it, it says this is the image, okay? And
Yes.
it's got beautiful illustrations, this whole deck. So it says, every thought I think is creating my future. Every
Mm,
thought I think is creating my future.
mm.
I'll take a photograph as well and send you later. And there's a whole text here, so bear with me.
Yes, sure.
So it says, the universe totally supports every thought I choose to think and believe. I have unlimited choices about what I think I choose.
Wow.
I have unlimited choices about what I think I choose. I choose balance, harmony, and peace, and I express it in my life.
Wow. That's powerful. That's perfect.
I don't believe this. I've never come across this card. There are like about 64 cards,
Yeah.
and I've done it for a few people at the end of sessions. And this is about choices and thoughts. And we were
Oh,
talking about choice. And
oh, yes. That's amazing. That really, you don't have to ask me. It resonates totally. Yeah. Wow. That's so powerful. And yeah, I mean, I believe that exactly what the card says. And that's the truth.
hmm, hmm.
That's amazing. You're gonna have to send me, message me some shots. That's brilliant. Thank
Yes,
you.
I will definitely do that, David. It's been lovely having you here. I have, yes, definitely. I had a few other intense questions too, but we'll leave it for the next podcast, and we will do that. Thank you for your time and energy. I hope your book does good, and everybody who wants to get a look at your book or buy it or even listen to the audio version, it's out there. As he said, it's everywhere. So just
Thank
get online and have a look at his book and buy it. It's going to be a really good book, a self-help book for you to keep and read through whenever you want to. I mean, it can be even at the age of 80, which you mentioned in your book, the age
you.
80, which I think at 80, I would be feeling like, okay, now I am 16. Let's read this.
Yes,
I think,
yeah.
yeah. So thank you so much, David. It's been
Thank
lovely having you.
thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.